Good morning. How y'all doing? Um, okay, so I got this book the other day, and I just wanted to read to y'all about the judgment. Gives them awesome insight into that process and what it's gonna look like and stuff. But first, just want to touch a little on. So, like you have separation from God. You know, those are ones that don't want to acknowledge Him, that only care about themselves. You know, that deny God, deny His existence. Um, those dark entities that we all know and are very self-serving. They may be fully aware there's a God, but no, they don't buy into His goodness or love, or they see Him as evil and bad. There's them as well. Um, and then you got suicides, right? Those are not okay. So you're breaking your contract. We all choose what we come here to go through, and if it's too much for us to handle and we take an early exit, then we just have to come right back and go through the same circumstances again, um, without killing ourselves. And when you do it one time, the next life makes it easier to do it again. So you could end up in a perpetual cycle. It's just not worth doing. You just don't want to do that. But then there's also the ones as well that are mentally ill, and those most likely usually get to make it to the other side and experience heaven. So yeah, then there's then make it to the other side. Well, then there's the waiting area, okay, which is for people that are on the fence, people that there may be a God, but you didn't serve Him, is kind of on the fence about things. You be good some days, bad some days. You're swayed by whatever the times were. Then you are, then you're in this waiting area, and then you eventually you get asked, do you believe in God, basically, and you go, oh well, and that place, my understanding, is very, very void of emotion, very, very empty, and it's sad. It seems like everyone's filled with despair there. Like, man, like what's gonna happen to me? What's going on? I don't know. I guess like no one's talking in there. No one talks in that place, and it's a very sad feeling. And we could pray for those people that are in there, that that they recognize God and His love, and say yes, and then go to the other side with their loved ones. Um, so there's that place as well. Um, and then we got the other side, okay? And so, my belief, that, um, this life's going to be ending soon, and we'll be going to the next life. Our judgment's very, very important, okay? And this whole idea about God judging us is once you learn the truth of it and the wisdom in it, what you're about to share with y'all, is just ludicrous. Ludicrous. Okay. Now, as we experience the scanning machine, we have the benefit of total recall of the chart we wrote. In an atmosphere where there is no negativity and the very air we breathe is infused with God's unconditional love and understanding. Viewing our lives not through our earth eyes, but through our spirit eyes of complete, honest fairness means that we aren't just watching what we did from a new point of view. We're also watching the people around us with the compassionate insight we might not have offered them at the time. It's a critical point it because of who it is that judges the life. It's a critical point because of who it is that judges the life we've just completed. It's not God, and it's not our spirit guide. It's us. We judge ourselves, our triumphs and failures, our humanity or lack of it, our acts of kindness and selfishness, our moments of courage and cowardice, and above all, how successfully we accomplished the charted goals that made us choose to leave home in the first place. It's the toughest judgment we could be subjected to, because just as there is no negativity on the other side, there is also none of the ego-driven defensiveness and the self-justification that prevent us from facing the truth of our actions while we were on earth. Our spirit guide, who was with us every step of the way through the lifetime we're reviewing, will comfort us throughout the difficult process, but ultimately the final verdict about our success or failure is ours. Just think, every word, every action, every time we could help someone but turn our back instead, every petty little snit we throw when something doesn't go our way will be played out before our eyes in the scanning machine. If that doesn't please you, good for you. If that thought pleases you, good for you. If it doesn't, take it from me. Spending a moment each morning anticipating the scanning machine can help make a very productive difference in your day. According to Francine and clients who have described their experience with the scanning machine through their regression or astral travel, the vast majority of us leave it feeling preoccupied with the sense, sometimes vague, sometimes very strong, of unfinished business. Oddly, it doesn't seem to be the big mistakes we made that linger most prominently in our thoughts, but the times when we extended ourselves a little, when we knew we could have done more. The friend in pain to whom we paid a moment of passing attention but were too busy to visit and embrace with compassion. The elderly stranger with too many shopping bags we pleasantly said hello to without offering to carry their packages to their car. The lost child in the mall we worried about but didn't stay with until he was safely with his parents again. The stray pet we braked for, but didn't take the time to check their tag and take them home, or the charity we didn't give the extra $20 to because we might want to spend it on a movie later. It's on the sobering occasion of leaving the scanning machine that we begin considering the possibility of returning to Earth to try again. And because its impact on us is so profound, it's all the more important that we experience the next step in our return to the other side. Um, and then so then too another thing, there's no time there. It's not, they're not bound by time. It's more like a circle. Time is more like a circle instead of linear like it is here. So like you go through this process and experience it because like my understanding, like usually if someone's gonna have a visit from their departed loved one, it's gonna happen usually within about 3 days. Um, so, so probably that's, their welcome home. They go to the scanning machine and then enjoy, probably a nice little party, with their family and friends. You know, um, really awesome, really really cool. Um, but yeah, about 3 days though, so probably about a day, 24 hours here, the whole lifetime, you know, whole lifetime can be viewed and you grade yourself on, how you did. That's just the wisdom in that, the wisdom there. Like, you just can't make this stuff up, like, and this person, what she did, Sylvia Brown, she was a hypnotist and she did past life regressions. Like you know, um, she took people back to their birth, and almost every time they would willingly and themselves go to other lives and talk about other lives they lived, and then so when they get to the end of the life and then they get to heaven, she would ask, okay, well, so what happens there? What's and it's just and the similarities, and like there's no one had, oh well, heaven looked like this to me, and then like everybody talks about the scanning machine, everybody talks about the hall of wisdom, everybody talks about these things that is the same. Everyone has, I mean, it may, like some people when they get there and they may hear music, this or that, there may be subtle small differences, that you notice or that means something to you, but in general it's, we all go to the same place, you know um it's just beautiful, so wonderful, so amazing. So I guess I'm gonna read a little bit after this though, a little bit beyond it, just to give you a little idea, what takes place, because I really feel like we're doing more of my research and stuff, and the chip is on its way, and I really feel like the rapture, is gonna happen for a lot of us, before all that kicks off, and from the experience that I had and stuff, I really feel like it's gonna happen in January of this next year. Um, 'Cause I experienced it this last January, and like as if this was gonna happen, wake people up, bring people to the truth. So that's just what I'm trying to do now. But yeah, and it's a very beautiful thing, very beautiful process. Nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. Promise you that. Okay, yeah. Orientation, the experience of the scanning machine is immediately followed by the equally essential process of orientation. It's doing it's during orientation that we discuss the lifetime we've just reviewed in kind of debriefing, decompressing, meeting with our spirit guide, trained orientators, and other spirits whose input can give us the perspective and insight we need to fairly evaluate what we've learned. Let's say, for example, that there's someone you hurt terribly, repeatedly during your life, and the scanning machine has left you devastated by your own actions. The orientators and your spirit guide, with the benefit of having your chart in front of them, can help you see how and if that troubled relationship and any others were crucial parts of your progress, or if it indicates a lesson you need to go back and learn. In addition, you can call in any person if they're also on the other side, or their spirit guide if they're not, to find out what kind of impact your behavior had on them. Maybe you did serious damage for which you'll want to make amends. Maybe you weren't as important to them as you thought, and they weren't affected by your treatment of them one way or another. Maybe you triggered them to behave badly towards other people and perpetuate a cycle of damage that you can now work together towards stopping. Or maybe you were essential to their chart, inspiring them to become advocates for the victims of whatever form of abuse you subjected them to. One way or another, this part of the orientation process will give you total understanding of the most troublesome parts of your life so that you can learn, make amends, and take positive steps towards forgiving yourself and moving on with greater love and compassion. Another function of orientation is to facilitate the transition to the other side for those spirits who were unprepared for their trip and are too confused or annoyed to be at peace when they first arrive. Not everyone is as lucky as I and was exhilarated about going home, but orientation is one of the ways in which the spirits there are ready and impeccably trained to help. After the unprepared spirit experiences the scanning machine and the debriefing afterward, they're given the kindest, most insightful counseling by the orientators to quiet their confusion and lingering frustration, followed by as much time as they need doing activities that brought them comfort on earth. Lindsay's father is a perfect example of a spirit who went through this last stage of orientation. His lifetime ended with absolute no mourning. Lindsay's family was gathering for an earthly Christmas celebration at her brother's house in Monterey. On the way there from the San Jose airport, a drunk driver caused an accident that her father didn't survive. He was a happy, healthy 63-year-old man looking forward to the holidays, riding along with a wife, son, and daughter he adored. In the middle of a joke, when suddenly and unavoidably, bam, he was gone, and he didn't exactly appreciate it either. Taking great care of his family had always been his top priority, but there was his son, hospitalized with a severe concussion, and a wife and daughter who were only slightly injured, but alone in a strange city, left to deal with losing him. 2,000 miles from home, Christmas turned to shock and grief, and he didn't know how to help them from the other side, which is where he found himself before he could even finish his joke. His orientation took about 6 months and included a lot of fishing, but by the end of it, he was and is a joyful, busy spirit who watches over and visits his family here on earth more often than they even realize. My father, on the other hand, died after months of illness, but even with plenty of warning, his transition home was more difficult than Lindsay's father was and required more intensive care than orientation provides. And of course, the spirits on the other side are ready, willing, and trained and loving enough to give him and those like him all the extra care they need through a process called cocooning. Daddy and I on an extraordinary bond from the day I was born, and when he died, he arrived on the other side highly agitated from the grief of being separated from me, almost as if he took on both his grief and mine in the hope of sparing me the pain of losing him. When such a truly disconsolate spirit goes home, their spirit guide and close family members, knowing something more dramatic than traditional orientation will be of the most immediate help, cocoon them to get them safely through the painful withdrawal they're going through. In the cocooning process, the spirit is put into a restful, healing twilight sleep and receives constant care and a steady infusion of God's compassion, peace, and kind, empowering love. The spirit wakes with the joy of being home, not separate from those missed on earth, but just separate from the grief of missing them. A spirit is cocooned for as long as it takes them to feel healthy and whole again. In my father's case, it was 8 months by our time, but the blink of an eye to him. When he finally came to visit me from the other side, it felt as if I'd been without him for an eternity, and my first words were, "Daddy, what took you so long?" He answered, "What do you mean? I just left." If you suspect a deceased loved one might not have been emotionally prepared to go home, or you don't sense them around you as quickly as you're yearning for, please try to be patient and don't worry. Whether they're going through orientation or being cocooned, they're in safe, sacred hands, and they'll be around you again very soon. So, yeah, this is awesome. Like, God is so good. God is so amazing, and just want to share that, just give a little light on the subject, and just keep that hope alive. Keep that faith burning. Okay, well, Jess will be up here soon. Or I may lay back down with her, get on her sleep. And then we'll do devotions in a bit. Alright, God bless. Hey, Father, I just want to thank you just for putting it on my heart to share this with people. I just pray that it reaches the people it needs to reach and that it means something to them and that they find comfort in your wisdom, Lord. In Jesus Christ's holy name, in the name I pray. Amen. Alright.